Welcome back to Casuals Corner, and we are going to fly through UFC 260 today and the full card. But before we jump into it, just a little word to say: if you enjoy the content, then please drop a subscribe and the little bell icon as well if you enjoy it, because we pump out content every single day. And yes, we mean YouTube as well, and we don't even mean one video, we mean 1 to 3 videos a day. So if you enjoy it, drop a subscribe, follow us on Instagram as well. That's at Casuals Corner. As you can see, the handle is going to be just in this little corner here.
Well edited in that. That was well edited in.
I know what the last time. It's
Yeah.
because it's because I was meant to point. I wasn't going to edit it in. I was just going to point to the corner of where it comes up in the bottom. But I thought it was going to be down here, so I kept pointing it down here. But it was on your side, so it was over here. So I know to do it on the other side now.
So there we go, people. That's where you'll find us.
So let's get into it, and I'm going to start it out as always with a couple of stats to throw your way.
Stat me.
So we had 10 fights on the cards. We had 4 KOs/TKOs. We had 2 submissions, which is quite rare, and we had 4 decisions. Frank,
can I have that in percentages, please?
Lucky you should ask, because I did say before, I said, unless they come in 10, 20 or 100 fights from now on, I cannot give you percentages. So to make me sound more as an official stat man, we had 40% of the fights ended in KOs, 20% ended in submissions, and 40% ended in decisions. So there you go. Tell me what you made of the card. Tell me what you made of the card.
Nice. It was just a phenomenal performance, from Le Predator. He just looked so scary in there. He kind of dominated the whole fight. Stipe, he landed one significant strike, I'd say, just before he got knocked out. It was a good shot, but that left hook was just money from Francis. He was just a man on a mission, No one was taking that away from him that night. Like you said to me off air, I don't think there's a man out there that will beat him that night, especially, He was a man on a mission. What did you make of the main event?
We always see with fighters, especially in a rematch as well, we say, oh, what's different from last time? And that's usually the biggest question. There's not a lot of conversations around much else when it comes to a rematch, apart from what's different to last time, because ultimately that's all you want to know. And with Francis, he came out and said he was watching his last fight and he didn't recognize the last fighter. He just said he completely didn't recognize him. And it was quite interesting because not a lot of people come out and say that, right? They'll say, okay, I improved on this, or I improved on that, or that wasn't good last time. But he straight out came and said, I did not recognize myself in that performance at all. So it spoke to how much he was being honest, firstly, and how much he really has developed and changed, because it was honestly 2 different fighters on our hands. We had a very new, patient, very good we need to address this. We need to address this first and foremost. He stuffed a takedown from Stipe.
Talk to me.
Stuffed the takedown very effectively, reversed the position, took his back, and then started landing blows. And as soon as he did that, I think a few people knew it was game over for Stipe, because if he was on the feet and Ngannou was looking that good with his new boxing, he was standing behind a jab, he actually was composed, he weren't just throwing recklessly, and then he stuffed a takedown. I think as soon as that happened, Stipe thought, this is it.
As he was standing upright, he was hitting him from, not behind, but his back was turned to him. Like that could have stopped.
Fist on the side,
that could have stopped a lot of other heavyweights, that alone, right? Getting hit there, then getting hit with those punches. He landed a nice head kick, like literally toes to the chin at one point. It was nice. It was a complete performance. He wasn't rushing him. He just couldn't be beat that night, But speaking about people that have come out with a completely different approach, let's discuss the co-main. So T-Wood versus Luque. Now, typically, Woodley's thing has been he's got all this power, right? But he's extremely patient with this power. He'll back up a lot just to land a shot. But this time round was different. I really did. I'm not the biggest fan of Woodley, if I'm being completely honest, but I really respect the performance. He come out and he was like, right, I'm going to put it on Luque. I'm either going to win this fight or I'm not. And I do respect that. He came to fight, he didn't come sort of wait and land his shot. He came to make a fight. And it was just, I don't want to say unfortunate because that takes away from Luque, right? But it's just one of those things. You're playing that game at the highest level. Like, it's not like he got dominated. He hurt Luque as well, it was just a bit just more props to Luque, getting him out on his feet. He couldn't even bring his hands up, and then cinching that Darce up, and then being against the cage, so he had nowhere to go. It was just a beautiful performance. What did you make of that one?
I do think as well, props to Luque, because I don't think that he
Facts.
actually probably gets as much respect as he deserves in that welterweight division. He's on 20-7, which is one win actually above Tyrone Woodley's record, and he's been around for a minute and a very impressive fighter. He's got, off the top of my head, the third most amount of knockouts in the welterweight division, which is very impressive, and he keeps winning. Luque, so I think it was
heavy hands. Heavy hands.
He's a nice striker, isn't he? He's a nice striker. So he's always
beautiful.
He always poses that threat when he walks out, because he always has that ability to end someone's night. So he's a problem at the top of the division as well, even. And he's sitting at, I think just off the top of my head, he was 10 before this fight. So he's looking to hopefully sort of climb to that upper end of the welterweight division, where it starts getting quite busy as well now. You start having a look, and just off the top of my head, without even having a look through the division, someone I know who's free at the moment in that division who hasn't got a fight, but is probably not going to want to take on someone like a Luque, is Steve Thompson. I think he's going to want to fight up, not have to do the honour of fighting down.
They've fought as well.
Well, that's the thing, right?
They've already fought as well.
He's the only person in that sort of gap there that's free at the moment, because everyone else is tied up.
Well, so I know he called out Nate Diaz. I don't think that he's necessarily going to get that fight, but you never know with Nate Diaz, right? Stranger things have happened. He come back and fought Pettis, so that could be one, because Nate's kind of one of them. Like, when he called him out, I was like, no one else has really called Nate out recently, bar maybe Masvidal, but he's kind of tied up with Usman. So he might know with Nate. He plays by his own rules. Do you know what I mean? So that could be one for the future. I'd definitely watch that stylistically. Great fight.
The thing, I often actually forget about Nate Diaz. So when I start thinking about sort of how the division looks and how they sort of stack up, I always forget that he's even a valid option. But yeah, it was a good win overall for Luque. I think it wasn't an easy night out in Tyrone Woodley, and I think probably for Woodley that's going to be that's going to be that, I think, in the organisation.
It's looking like a wrap. I've heard vicious rumours from none other than Uncle Chow that T Wood will be boxing, allegedly, Oscar De La Hoya, who's come out of retirement. That apparently is meant to be a thing in the future. And Uncle Chow said from a credible source, and he's not a liar, Uncle Chow. So
Uncle wouldn't lie. Uncle would not lie.
I don't know if I like that for Woodley, though. Like a retired boxer who's still got a lifetime of skill dedicated to purely throwing hands. I don't know. I would watch that. That couldn't headline a pay-per-view on its own, but it was on an undercard.
It's one of them. You'd watch it, but you're not going out your way to watch Tyrone Woodley's boxing career. I'm not personally.
No, I'm not massively. I'm not huge on that fight, but
it may just be a personal thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I am huge on. Sugar Sean O'Malley moves to, he'd say 13-0. His record officially says 13-1.
I think we can allow him 13-0, to be honest.
I mean, after that, it was one of his better performances, to be honest with you, because he went the full 3 rounds, although he did get the finish. We got to see a lot of his skills, because a lot of his fights are either finished early or 40% of his UFC fights have ended in injury. So there is that kind of narrative going into his fights. We don't get to see that much of him. So it's always good to see a dangerous striker in the later rounds to see how they get on. Kind of similar to Francis, right? We never really get to see him late. So it's like, oh yeah, but if you get into those later rounds, but he kind of answered a lot of questions to the haters that probably do give him shit. He's one of those guys, he's going to attract some positive things, but he's going to attract hate. He's outspoken. He's got rainbow coloured hair. But phenomenal performance. What did you make of it?
I'd even argue for someone like Sean O'Malley, when people come out and say, oh, what does he look like in the later rounds? I would argue that he's only going to look better than what you've seen already. And I think that's sort of proved my narrative with that fight alone. Because if you look at someone like Sean O'Malley, like we were sort of speaking just before we jumped on the call, he's a beautiful sort of flow state fighter. He fights off both sides. But the thing as well, what he loves to throw is a lot of sort of more exciting kicks and sort of spins and things like that. And it takes a little bit longer to get your read in a fight to start throwing these things. You have to start finding your distance a little bit better, because often you don't see people come out and just start throwing these from the back, because it takes a little while to get a read on your opponent. It takes a little while to get your timing down, because they're not easy things to throw. So if you give this guy more time to just get the read on you, I think it's going to be a worse problem for you than it is going to be a benefit, because I think the later on it goes, I think he just starts finding his timing better, starts finding his range, and he starts finding a home for these sort of kicks and these punches a lot more often. And I mean, I know it was only 3 rounds, but we sort of saw that.
He's a beautiful striker. He's a beautiful striker. Like the speed in which he can just spin at just effortlessly. It's almost like he's a high-level taekwondo guy, right? But he's not, because he's got some sharp boxing in there, beautiful timing, in and out movement. His fakes are there. Like he was having fun out there, you know, against the guy in Almeida who is more of a Muay Thai guy, right? He's heavy on stance. He's not in and out. So maybe in hindsight, it was a very good matchup for O'Malley, but he was excited about this one, and he it was almost target practice for him out there. You know, he was having the time of his life. He was just landing, and he couldn't miss. He got caught maybe once at the end of the second, but phenomenal performance on a big card. So his stock is going through. I rate it a lot.
There are some people that come out to fight to enjoy it, have fun, and they are very expressive with their performances. And he's very much one of them people. He's very expressive with how he dresses, with how he looks, with how he fights, and that is him. So when you have him on song, you have such a beautiful sort of combination of mixed martial arts, and you can sort of see everything coming together in such a beautiful sort of flow state of things. Like you'll even see
the picture in there.
Exactly. You'll even see like karate sort of styles, then with like what you say, like a taekwondo, and then like with boxing, and it sort of fuses this together in one very sort of loose style, and it is really a joy to watch. So I think when he gets a lot of hype and when he gets a lot of sort of eyeballs, I think it is because of that. Because if I'm to ask you the question now, off the top of your head, who is as good, if not better, at doing that? I'm not saying better than him in a sort of fighting sense. I mean in terms of who can you name off the top of your head in the UFC that does it just as good?
What, the full package?
Yeah, that's that sort of natural flow, that just sort of exciting, brings the kicks, brings the punches, brings that sort of lucidity in the ring.
The only thing you could sort of compare him to is Conor in the early days, sort of very flow state. But then Conor's nowadays is a lot more behind his boxing. He will throw some kicks, but he's just fallen in love with his hands. So I hope O'Malley doesn't change his style one bit, because it's such a joy to watch. And him against anyone in that bantamweight top 10, I'm watching that all day. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. What if he comes up against a strong grappler? Because when someone's this good at striking, it's easy to go, oh, but they can't grapple. But it's just a case of nobody's able to get through his striking to make him grapple. Now, when he gets into sort of top 15, 10, I don't know if Almeida was ranked, they're going to test that, right? They're going to be maybe more patient and get to that. But so far, we haven't seen any lack of skills in his grappling, and we've seen so many skills in his striking. So his stock's only gone up. You love to see it. He's a star. There's no doubt about it. He's got it all, you know. He's got the hair. He's got the kicks. We're looking at a big star.
The truth is as well, that bantamweight division, that runs deep at the moment.
Yeah.
That bantamweight runs very, very deep, and he's an exciting matchup for anyone. And to be perfectly honest, he's a problem for anyone in that division on his day. Do you know what I mean? He is a problem for literally anyone. So,
just think about it. Yeah. O'Malley versus Marlon Moraes. Yes. O'Malley versus Jose Aldo. Yes. O'Malley versus, all right, he's not there yet, but TJ Dillashaw. Yes.
Yeah, that's
O'Malley
an exciting one.
versus Dominic Cruz.
No.
Yes. Do you know what I mean?
There's
Bantamweight's
a good one on
juicy.
there.
So juicy.
O'Malley v even just a Cody Garbrandt. O'Malley v
Yeah.
even just a Corey Sandhagen, which would just be an interesting one. There is so much going on in that. Jimmy Rivera. I was just saying that division runs very, very deep, and as we were saying, he's a problem for anyone on his day. So that's an exciting one.
Yeah, he's a great addition to that division. But moving on from him, I'm sure we'll do a lot more videos on him, and I'm excited to see what his future holds. But Jamie Malarkey, is that right? Doesn't sound right. He got a finish over Karma Worthy, 46 seconds in. Tremendous finish. Fair play to him. That's a good performance against a dangerous Karma Worthy, who is pretty athletic and pretty dangerous. So
again, it's that lightweight division. As if we
juicy.
need any more issues in the lightweight division.
Yeah, there's some traffic at the top. Now, yeah, one I want to touch on briefly. Now, I'm no jiu-jitsu expert, right? These guys are clearly elite grapplers / fighters, but you need to let go of a guillotine inside control. Otherwise, you're going to get von fluted. We've seen it too many times. It's a very low-level mistake to be making. His arm got stuck after he realised he messed up. Anyone that's listening and doesn't have the pleasure of taking part in jiu-jitsu, a von flute choke is literally a mouthful, but it's where you're literally choking someone with your shoulder. So you're kind of ramming your shoulder into their throat. Now, if you've seen Alonzo Melifield, you'll know that he doesn't lack muscle and he certainly doesn't lack shoulders. So imagine that shoulder in your throat. Would you tap? Yes, you would, is the answer. But good finish against a dangerous opponent. Neutralised him, early finish. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, you have to think we're sitting at a light heavyweight here. So that's what, 205 pounds of pressure. And then on top of that, you've actually got the pressure that they're pressing in.
Kilos.
So it's a lot of weight. So once you actually do get it in there, although we don't see it often, and although we don't see it that often, you can see how effective it can be, because especially, I mean, this was actually in round 1, which is impressive because that's when sometimes you see these in the later rounds and it's when they're so tired and it's when they're so knackered, and that pressure is even sort of like doubled. But in round 1, where people are sort of typically a little bit fresher, is even that much more impressive, because obviously you can sort of see how much force there must be generating to get that tap. So yeah, that's an impressive win, and one that we don't see an awful lot. I don't think there's an awful lot of even von Flute submissions in the UFC, and I'm probably even going to find out how many there are.
I think there's 4, maybe 5 from Saturday. OSP's got 3. I think there's Leonek's got 1, and I think Menifield's got 1.
There's 6 in the UFC history. OSP has 4. That is crazy. How one
it's OSP's thing.
Saint-Paul.
Yeah, who are the other 2? Menifield, and who's the other one?
I don't actually know. This one says 6 von Flue chokes, but that's 4th of December. Menifield, St. Peru. That's the only ones I can find. Right? Yeah. Anyway,
it is rare, but you see those big guys that can get it. OSP, Menifield, very similar in sort of stature, just big, athletic finishers. But yeah. Then we had Khabib's cousin, brother, I don't know, but welterweight versus Jared Gordon. And he won a 3-round decision. He looked good, actually. He looked sharp on the feet, mixed up the wrestling a little bit. Very nice jab. Just a complete performance from another Nurmagomedov that you probably need to watch out for. Those boys from Dagestan, you know the drill. They're just dangerous people. And then we had... This is a fun one for anyone listening that's from the UK. So Modestus Bakaukas versus Michael Ollie and Jacek.
Nice.
I think I butchered that.
No, you smashed it.
It sounded like I knew.
No, you smashed it. That is right.
Bakaukas. Kalkus was actually on Take Me Out. That's a fun little bonus thing. So I watched the episode where he was in it, so I feel somewhat tied to his career now that I've seen that. And he's
That's all it
English. Well, he
takes.
fights out of the UK.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Though I feel tied to his career. I was like, oh, that geezer's on Take Me Out, and I was watching it. So yeah, he lost actually, but a lot of, I say a lot, but it's not that much. It's mainly on his Instagram uproar about him losing. It was a close fight. Could have gone either way. I probably would have given it to Kalkus, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, you know. It's one of those things. And then just to top us off, Shane Young fighting out at CKB. He lost the decision, unfortunately. And it was a good fight, a bit of a back and forth fight, but the right person won. And yeah, what's for him? I don't know. He's a good fighter. He'll get back in the win column, no doubt about it. And then we have the first fight of the night, so you said the first fight of the night usually sets the tone for the night, and you weren't wrong this time, to be fair. We had Marc-Andre Barriault versus Abu Azatar, who's, if you remember, his brother got kicked out of Fight Island and cut for that whole fiasco. But yeah, this one was a war. Could have been stopped earlier. He just couldn't get out of the position, and he was just taking a lot. I would have liked to seen the refs step in earlier, but what can you do? To be fair, he was moving positions. He was fighting out of stuff, but there was just no way for him to win that fight. So fight until it wasn't. It sort of.
It doesn't take a lot sometimes that they warrant. I was just going to say, it doesn't take a lot sometimes that they warrant a defense. When they say defend yourself, if they literally just throw like sort of one punch, they usually let that roll on. So sometimes you'll see someone in such a sticky position, even just throw like a hand like that, and they'll sort of see that as visually fighting against it. So even though they're still so defensive, yeah, exactly. So you'll see these people dead on their feet, just sort of like move their hand. Even if it lands, it's not going to do anything. It's just sort of like dead weight, but it's just like true grit.
Yeah, I think they could have definitely stopped that earlier. But all in all, a good night of fights. A good night of fights. Where everyone goes from here, to be determined. But we know one thing for sure.
We're going to find out.
There we go. You know the vibes, people. Support on all our stuff. Make sure you stay connected. Follow us on Instagram. You can find the link in our bio to our various other content platforms which we create daily on. So if you like what you see, support the movement, drop a like, comment, let us know what you think below. Let's get a conversation started. We love talking about MMA, hence why we're here. So get involved.